All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. This month's webinar, we're going to talk about creating an accurate and efficient payroll process. And certainly that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But one of the things we really try hard to do is help our clients with their process and help them implement changes to their process that might make things easier for them from an administrative perspective and more efficient to ensure there's no errors. So we will hop right in and get down to business. So we're going to kind of run through a bunch of different things. We really want to look at kind of the hire to retire model of managing payroll and HR, and we'll run through each kind of step to go through that. So, when we're looking at your payroll process as it currently stands, we always tell people to take a step back, right? Figure out what systems you're using, how are they integrating together, what data do you need, what data don't you need, right? That's important as well. We have a lot of clients that use their point of sale system for timekeeping or a different system for timekeeping. They may have an HR system that they're using or their general ledger or accounting system that, all these things play a piece of the puzzle. Also, things like your retirement providers and your benefits providers. There's all sorts of different things that kind of come into your payroll process. And we always like to take an inventory of that. Who is actually doing the work? Again, take a step back and say, hey, is there someone that I can give some of this work to in order to make my life easier, right? We always encourage folks, particularly when it comes to managing employees and managing time and time off requests and all that kind of stuff, push that work down on your managers. Let your managers be more active in that and hold them accountable for that. So there's always a step in there that says, okay, who does the work? And can I find somebody else to do it or replace that with some technology or process to make it easier? Again, we talked about the data, what's a nice to have versus a must have. We see a lot of clients who spend a lot of time overcomplicating their lives. And you see, I mentioned keep it simple down at the bottom. But there's a lot of data that's helpful, of course, to running your business. But there's also a lot of data that people never look at, right? They spend a lot of time and energy organizing information and collecting information, but they may never use it. Even things, so far down to the nitty gritty of departments and locations and different earnings and things like that. Certainly figure out what you need and what you have to have, right? So we've done some process maps with clients, and that has been really helpful. Again, we've asked a lot of these questions. Said, okay, what systems do you use? Who does the work? Where does it happen? What needs to happen? What doesn't need to happen? What outcomes do you need? Do a process map, and we're happy to help with that as well. And kind of can be really simple, can be really complicated. I mean, we've done some that where people have gone from using 10 different systems, and we've gotten things organized, and they're down to 2 or 3. And everything in between. So kind of write those things down. So always take a step back, take a look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. Again, we talked about that hire to retire model, and we're really big on making sure that you have that strong foundation to start. And that really comes down to your HR policies, your handbook, making sure that you are implementing things consistently with your policies, right? If you don't have a policy, time to get one, right? Make sure your handbook is up to date. When was the last time you took a look at it? Was it more than a couple of years ago? It probably needs to be reviewed because, quite honestly, the regulations and laws have changed dramatically in the last several years, and there's a lot of things that you might not have thought of. We just took a look at ours in-house here. It had been about 2 years, and I think we ended up adding 3 or 4 pages because there were so many changes that we had to go in and adjust and add in there. Remember, if you have employees in different states, that all of your policies have to, go and match those different states' laws. So certainly be sure to make sure that you are compliant with all of that as well, right? Again, these, having the good foundation sets the employees' expectations up for success. It gives you a roadmap of what you can, how you can be successful in running your payroll and managing your business and being, having good processes. That's all really important stuff. So start with that foundation, get your foundation built, and then everything else will be consistent and accurate from there going forward. So don't forget, Dawn on our team, our new HR consultant, she's always happy to help with this as well. So quick plug there. Hiring. So this is certainly, the biggest challenge we hear from clients. So think about your hiring process. Again, go back to your HR piece. Make sure you have good job descriptions in place. Make sure your pay scales are well defined. Start with that. When you're hiring, think about your process in that. We see a lot of clients that just use Indeed. Indeed is a great tool, of course, and a lot of leads come there. It's not inexpensive, as I'm sure you all know, uh, but it does work. So make sure you're using some sort of system. It and including an applicant tracking system. And we do have an applicant tracking system that essentially allows you to build those job descriptions either using AI, or you can upload your job descriptions, post your jobs to hundreds of job boards automatically. You don't have to go out there and post to 50 different job boards. It can do it automatically for you. And that's really nice. And then when employees or when candidates apply, that all comes back into one spot. And again, with that, you can have your hiring managers in there as well, so that you are pushing that work down. Let them screen it first. You can set up interviews. You can text candidates from there. You can share your calendars. There's all sorts of types of things you can do in an applicant tracking system to help you manage your process and make life easier, right? We know that when we are hiring candidates, especially today, that responding to them promptly is really, really important. And we're seeing more and more people wanting you to text them or email them or call them the same day they apply, right? These candidates are disappearing faster than they are applying, and we want to make sure that we are, keeping track of that. So again, make sure you have a good foundation. Make sure you have your house in order. Make sure you get your hiring policies and procedures, your job description, your onboarding, all that stuff in place to make sure your hiring is going well. And again, consider using an applicant tracking system to help manage that. Once you've hired someone, right, the compliance piece continues, right? How many pieces of paper do you have shuffled around your desk when you're hiring somebody new? You might want to think about using an electronic onboarding system like we offer, so that you are going in there and you're collecting all of the employee paperwork upfront electronically, right? So W-4s, I-9s, direct deposits, signing the handbook, reviewing all that stuff, enrolling in benefits, keep all that stuff in there. I-9 compliance is something that I would say probably 90% of our clients are not doing correctly. And that's certainly a key. We have a couple of clients who have gone through an I-9 audit, and it's not fun. So always, keep track of that. From within the onboarding process in iSolved, we can set up an integration with E-Verify so that when a new employee comes on, they get their paperwork completed within 3 days of their hiring. You can go out to E-Verify, automatically sync it up. It'll give you a decision, let you know whether they're eligible to work within just a couple of minutes, and you're good to go. Again, with the onboarding, it will create all of your employee files for you electronically, and you can add to that at any time. So, and again, you can give employees or managers access to certain things if you wanted to. And that'll help you keep things more organized and consistent. So again, trying to keep yourself organized, consistent, and that will set you up for success. So similar to onboarding, we look at benefits enrollment, right? So again, paperwork, 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 paperwork. Always try to figure out a way to get rid of the paper. In this day and age, I always joke our name is Paper Trails, but we should be called Paperless Trails. We don't have a file cabinet in the office anymore. We've really gotten away from that and really tried to create processes that are more accurate, more efficient, more accessible, and that includes the benefits process, right? So within iSolve, we can create a benefits onboarding process for your employees, whether it's through open enrollment, annual or new employee enrollment if they come on mid-year, and so forth. That will allow you to build all your policies in there, put your plan information in there. Employees can select which plans and policies they want to enroll in, what type of coverage. Then you go ahead and approve it and review it. If you are using one of our integrations with one of your carriers, it will automatically submit those enrollments off to your benefits broker and your benefits company and automatically enroll. So zero paper involved. It's really spiffy, works really well. And that, by the way, automatically integrates with payroll as well. So as soon as you have approved it and the effective date of that new policy starts, any deductions that employee needs to contribute for those benefits automatically update. There's no updating that information causing issues. There's a reconciliation tool that we have that will allow you to go in and make sure that the employees are covering their full premium. So if, for example, an employee misses a pay period, you can go in and do a reconciliation to say, hey, gosh, Susie missed this pay period. We need to collect twice as much next time to get her caught back up on her contribution. So again, trying to create that benefits process so that it's really seamless and effortless. And certainly, anyone that has ever enrolled in benefits knows that it is not fun, and is a lot of paperwork and a lot of work. So certainly think about ways to get yourself organized in that regard. So timekeeping, we always tell our clients, once you get somebody on board, you get them set up, you got to get them to start punching in, right? And it's amazing to me. Every day we hear our clients say, "Oh, so Susie didn't punch, and I need to get her hours in, or I forgot to pay her because she didn't punch," or something like that. We just tell people that timekeeping is cultural, and that starts with you at the top and your management team, and holding your employees accountable for this. If they don't punch, they don't get paid, right? The first time that happens will probably be the last time that they forget to punch. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to pay them and pay them on time. You certainly do, but there are little, nuggets you can do. You can just pay them by check and hold on to that until they come say, "Hey, where's my check?" And you can say, "Hey, guess what? You didn't punch in this week." And certainly that is important as well. So, timekeeping is cultural. Timekeeping is really important. Don't be afraid of your employees. Use the tools that are available, whether that's a mobile punch or a time clock, punching on your computer. Use those tools in there. And that will also, we talked about the data, right? A lot of the data that comes from payroll comes from time. And that's really important to make sure that the data that you are pulling in is accurate, right? If you need to collect information based on job or client or customer or location or work type or something like that, again, push that work down on your employees. Let them do the work and tell you where they worked, how they did their work, and so forth. So you're not tracking that manually. We do have clients that are tracking time down to the customer level or the job level so that you can manage billing and so forth. And that will allow you to allocate and integrate with your accounting system to track billing costs. And that's certainly something we'll talk about in a second, is that GL piece. But it is possible to do that. And certainly timekeeping is becoming even more important as we have employees working remotely. You want to make sure that, they're punching into the right work location. If they're working in Massachusetts, but your business is based in Maine, you have to be following Massachusetts laws. You have to be paying Massachusetts taxes. And that's really important to make sure that things are set up appropriately so that you are tracking that and being compliant with all of those laws. So timekeeping is really critical to your business, not to mention it is critical for compliance from Department of Labor, wage and hour perspective. The first thing that wage and hour division does when they walk in your door is ask for your time cards for the last 2 years, and you need to be able to provide them in a hopefully somewhat cohesive manner. So certainly they will care about that. So always, always, always think about timekeeping, how it works, what you want out of it, and how that plays into it. So we talked a little bit about that document management, but there's also some ways you can track basic HR functions and do this so electronically. So we have pieces of iSolve, things you might not even know exist, right? That's why we're kind of doing this. You can track certifications and licensures. So if you have employees that you have to have their license on file, you can certainly create a tracking mechanism for that. It will alert you, the system will alert you and the employee and whoever else you'd like that their license is expiring, right? So if you have to have a driver's license and Bob's license expires 12/31, you can start saying 90 days before or 60 days before, "Hey, I needed a copy of Bob's new license." And then again, you upload that, keep track of it electronically. You don't have to forget to get new certification information. Certainly, I use that license example because there are a lot of industries that have to have that for their insurances and certifications and so forth. So use the electronic tools to help you, don't keep track of it in a spreadsheet that you have to remember to go check every month. Use the tools that are available to you. Similarly, we can track assets. So if you are assigning, computers or phones or keys or anything like that to your employees, you can go ahead and track that so that when they leave and they offboard, you can go ahead and collect that that I have to go get my cell phone back. I have to get my keys back. I have to get that information back so that it doesn't get forgotten. Because, right, we probably gave, Bob a set of keys 20 years ago, and we totally forgot that when he left to collect them back. So use those tools. And again, we'll talk about offboarding here in a second, but use the tools that are there. Likewise, there's some basic performance management within the system that you can do, that you can create pretty basic performance management tools in here. Track those, push those to your managers, allow the employee to comment on it, review it, approve it, and so forth. Some really good tools in there to help manage those processes. So basic HR functions as well can be looked at. What are the things you have to track? What are the things you have to report on? So think about how you want to manage that. When we look at offboarding, right, we talked about when an employee leaves, right? So if you're using offboarding with the system, similarly to onboarding, you can assign different tasks to different folks in your organization. So if you want the facilities person to see or the IT person to see what assets they need to collect back, or if there's PTO that needs to be paid out on the last payroll, or benefits that need to be canceled, certainly that process is really important. How do you make sure that when someone leaves, you've terminated them appropriately? Do you need to do COBRA? Do you need to manage their benefits? All that stuff is really important to think about. And if you're using the tools within the system, again, the certifications, the asset tracking, the document storage, the employee benefits module, the PTO tracking, all those kind of things, when you're offboarding someone, you can ensure that electronically they are being offboarded correctly, things are being canceled. Again, if you're using integrations, benefits and COBRA can automatically be fired off, right? Benefits will be canceled, COBRA will be started. If you want to pay out your PTO, make sure their final pay is taken care of and so forth. That can all be done as part of the offboarding piece. So make sure that when someone leaves, you're turning that employee off, you're terminating them appropriately, because the last thing you want is to forget to cancel their health insurance, and then 3 months later you look at the Anthem bill and realize you've been paying $1,000 a month for someone that doesn't work for you anymore. So not fun at all. As part of your payroll processing, we certainly encourage you to check, double check, triple check, verify, right? Start with your time cards, go there, make sure folks have punched out appropriately, they're punching into the right departments, the right locations, all of that is important. And again, like I said, push that down to your managers. Don't be afraid to use your team. That's really, really important, especially in typing, because quite frankly, in most small businesses, the owner or whoever's running payroll doesn't know what's happening on the floor of the restaurant, or doesn't know what's happening out in the field as the landscapers are working around, right? So use your team and use your managers who are directly supervising them and know better to manage that. So look at those time cards, run reports that are available to you, make sure that folks haven't forgotten to punch in or out before you do that. Make sure all of your employee data is correct. There's exception reporting with every payroll. Again, we tell you to look at a few reports every single time you run payroll to look for any red flags for fraud, for miscalculations, for double payrolls. We've seen it happen far too many times where someone accidentally pays someone 800 hours instead of 80 hours, right? Use the reporting, use the exceptions report. It's going to tell you, hey, Bob is getting paid way more than he should. Is that right? Take a look at that. Look at the new employee change report. That will tell you if someone's direct deposit has changed. Did they do that and not tell you? Did someone on your team do that? Does it look like there's fraudulent activity there? Take a look at those changes, because certainly you want to make sure that those are working. Obviously, if you're making changes to deductions or benefits or PTO, take a look at those. Look at the payroll registers. Look at the accruals reports. You can look at all of the reports before you process payroll. Everything can be previewed before you hit process. So always, always, always look at those. Double, triple check everything. Now, certainly mistakes always happen, and we can certainly fix those, but we want to make sure that things are correct beforehand, because certainly we don't want Bob or Susie to not get paid. That is no fun for anybody, for the employee or for you when they come into your office kicking and screaming about that. So again, you want to make sure you're verifying, because the compliance piece is the biggest piece, right? Are you paying your overtime appropriately? Are you using blended overtime? Are you classifying your employees correctly? We are going through a period where the salary threshold is increasing rapidly, right? It just went up and it's going to go up again January 1st. And that's something that you want to make sure that you're covering. Are your employees getting paid minimum wage? If they are tipped employees, are they covering the tipped wage? And so forth. Again, we talked about underpayments, overpayments, verify, use those. And certainly if you are doing all this verification, it makes your year-end reports even is the most accurate, right? Make sure all your data accurate going forward in there. And again, we talked about verifying those change reports because again, direct deposit fraud is real. And we talk about it an awful lot where folks are losing their direct deposits because their emails are getting hacked and they're using social engineering to get an HR manager or someone to change their direct deposit, and people are losing money. So check, 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 make sure that things are not being changed erroneously. We talked a little bit about this before, but once payroll's been processed, then we want to get that information accurately into our accounting system, right? So use the tools we have. Again, let's create a general ledger report, and that will essentially create your journal entry for you to go into QuickBooks or whatever system you are using every single week, right? We have some integrations with a few systems, so automatically when you run payroll, it'll get your journal entry can get pushed over to QuickBooks and posted appropriately to the correct accounts every payroll, right? So certainly that saves you a step. Don't have to do that anymore. But it also makes sure that your books are accurate. Make sure that things are in there and posted like your accountant wants them. If they want owner's salary broken out, let's post it that way, right? Wages, taxes, fees, deductions, everything needs to be posted appropriately. And that helps you manage your cash flow, make sure that your reconciliation process at the end of the month is accurate. And at the end of the year, certainly you want to make sure you're reconciling your general ledger to your W-3. I'm not sure how many folks do that other than me, maybe because I'm a geek, but your accountant's probably doing that for you. But certainly make sure that you're getting things entered in correctly. And certainly, like I said, we can create general ledger reports for you and integrate them with certain systems. QuickBooks Online is probably the most common one we do. But if it's something weird, we can create a custom export for you that you can really quickly import. And again, don't have to do any data entry. These general ledger entries will allow you to create custom journal entries and again, break it down by all those things, locations, departments, jobs, customers, however you want to do that, we can export that data in a format that will get into your accounting system and make sure that your books are accurate. So many other integrations are possible, right? We do a ton of integration for workers' comp. So if you are paying your workers' comp quarterly or annually today, you might want to look into doing what's called comp as you go or pay as you go workers' comp. And what that allows is we would transmit your wages off to your your workers' comp company every payroll, and they'll bill you for the premium that's just due on those wages. Because too many of us get to the end of the year and get to that audit, and we have to worry about making sure that we have to overpay we've overpaid or underpaid our workers' comp premium because we estimated it. Workers' comp as you go really eliminates that headache. You still have to do the audit, but essentially there should be very little variance because every time we run a payroll, we're sending data off to them. Now that also means that you have to make sure that class codes are set up correctly and tracked. And again, in certain situations, if you have employees doing different jobs or roles, again, I use the landscaping example because a lot of times landscapers have 6, 8, 10 just different class codes, right? You want to make sure that your employees are punching into the correct jobs so that they're getting the correct class codes assigned so that, when we're transmitting those wages, you're getting billed appropriately and not overpaid or underpaid. So really, again, start to finish, making sure that that data is correct so that when you get to the end, life is good. Similarly with retirement providers, so we can transmit your retirement contributions off to your retirement provider so that you're not having to key that into a website or write a check manually, things like that every payroll. So that's, again, time savings, efficiency for you. Every retirement provider has a different method of managing that. Some are easier than others. Some like a check and a report, some like an integration, some want all sorts of different things. But certainly there's plenty of options there that can help minimize any risk of data entry errors, right? So if you're manually entering contributions into a website, how many times have we accidentally hit the 9 instead of the 6 or something like that, right? We don't want to do those data entry things. And if there is no integration, at the very least, we might be able to create a custom export for you that would allow you to go ahead and upload that rather than keying it. So certainly things to think about to try to save you time. We have integrations with the Work Number. The Work Number is through Equifax. It's an employment and wage verification system that really allows you would no longer, if there's a bank or car dealer or something like that who is integrating with Equifax, which of course is one of the largest credit bureaus, you're no longer going to have to do employment verification forms for your employees or wage verification forms because we're using the work number, and that's all flowing through on the back end to allow for really seamless reporting and a better experience for your employees too. Similarly, we have the TurboTax integration. So when your employees, if they're using TurboTax to do their taxes at the end of the year, the second they put their social and your EIN into TurboTax, it's automatically going to pull over their W-2 information and let them, they don't have to key in their W-2s anymore, which of course, every year someone calls and says, hey, you did my W-2 wrong. It says I didn't pay enough Social Security. And to that, I, say, yes, we did it correctly. And you just keyed it wrong into your tax software. So that is a really helpful thing. Saves those phone calls, saves those headaches on that. Certainly better data, better integrations, better systems, more time savings allows you to spend more time with your in your business, working your business, and making more money for yourself and making better decisions. So all of these types of things really, really are important. And again, think about your process from start to finish, take a step back and move through that. So no, I kind of breezed through a lot of that process. Certainly we're happy to get together with anybody and talk through your process and see if there's things we think that might be beneficial to you to improve your process and make sure there's fewer errors and fewer headaches and issues. We didn't really talk about this a lot from the timekeeping perspective, but we'll do a lot of custom imports from your timekeeping systems or your point of sale systems so that there doesn't need to be any keying or manual spreadsheets or scratching the hours down on the notepad. We can pull a report out of your POS or whatever timekeeping system you're using and integrate that and import it into payroll so that there's, again, fewer data entry issues, fewer headaches, fewer issues. So that's the big thing we've been working on with clients a lot lately, is making sure that nobody's keying anything anymore. It's really using some sort of system or integration to get time into payroll. So I'm happy to take any questions. Certainly the Q&A is open, the chat's open. Feel free to pop in, raise your hand. I can allow you to chat if you like, but certainly always open to answer any questions you might have. And certainly you're always welcome to reach out to us offline as well. And we can certainly look at your individual situation to make sure that you're running things the best that you can. How do we know which features we currently pay for are available without upgrading? So certainly that's a great question. I can tell you a lot of the stuff we've talked about is included in what we're already charging. The only things that potentially would have additional fees with them, the benefits piece is definitely one of those pieces that adds cost because it's quite complex. Integrations, almost all the integrations we're not charging for. General ledger, HR tracking, all of that stuff is not billing, is not billable. Onboarding in certain situations may be billed, but again, the majority of what we've talked about today is certainly included. So reach out to us and we can happily chat with you about what that looks like and what features you might want to use or things you want to turn on. So if you have HR questions, do you ask your payroll processor or someone else? So if you have HR questions, so Dawn on our team, our new HR consultant, she is fabulous. She has office hours every Tuesday. So we did it this morning, first time. Tuesday at 10 a.m. You're welcome to go ask kind of a la carte any free questions that you have. And she will answer those for you on her office hours Tuesday at 10 a.m. And you go to papertrails.com/events to sign up for that every Tuesday. We certainly are welcome to start with your payroll processor. They'll do the best that they can to answer those. They may refer you off to Dawn for more information as well. So lots of avenues there. We're always happy to answer those. But don't forget, like I said, Dawn holds office hours every Tuesday at 10. We have a 7-person operation where we have multiple hats, where I wear multiple hats. I'd like to begin using timekeeping. What's the best way to set that up? We'll reach out to you, Diane. I'll have someone reach out to you and start talking about that to make sure we get that set up for you appropriately. How would the integration with Square POS work for timekeeping? So if you're using Square, there's an export that will come out of Square or any of your timekeeping systems every pay period. What we do is we'll work, Stephen on our team, I call him our data guru. He is wonderful. We'll take that report and we'll create a macro in Excel that will allow us to transform that into a way for us to import that. Usually takes about just one payroll to get that done. So Emily, if you want to start working on that, we're happy to do that. It works really slick. Sometimes it takes us a couple payrolls to get it right. But usually within, the first payroll, we've figured out all the errors and issues, saves a tremendous amount of time for everybody. So we've been really doing a lot of that lately. So yes, Teresa would love you if you did that, Emily. All righty, I'm not seeing any other questions here, but certainly if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to us. If there's anything you want to know more about, something you saw here, have a question about it, we are happy to chat. And we will go from there. So I got it, Diane, really quickly. Can you say more about Square? So Square is a point of sale system that the employees are punching in and punching out of as well. Certainly, it's just one of the many point of sale systems out there on the market that folks are using. And we know that we've taken that information out of Square before and we've gotten things taken care of. And I would say probably better in your situation. I'm not sure that any of your softwares would be doing timekeeping. We can certainly talk through that and make sure we're getting you into our timekeeping system. So, and Emily, you asked where the exceptions reports are. Those are on the payroll preview screen. When you go in to preview the payroll, down at the bottom, there are all the reports. You can see the payroll summary, register, exceptions reports, the audit reports. You can see leave accruals reports. You can see all the reports that you want to see right in that drop down on the preview payroll screen before processing it. So, and certainly I'll have Teresa show that where that is. So. All righty. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Please have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you next month. Next month's a big one. Next month is the paid family medical leave webinar. We have Luke Monahan from the state joining us. It's going to be lots of changes coming next year, the next 2 years actually, to Maine paid family leave. Big changes to payroll, new taxes coming. So next month in September, be sure to sign up for that. I think we already have almost 100 people signed up for that, and we're still a month out. So it's going to be a big one. So please join us next month as well, and have a great afternoon.